Christmas, everybody, and welcome to the far western panhandle. We're here in Pensacola, Florida today in Escambia County to do our next edition of Seafood at Your Fingertips. Today, we're getting close to Christmas and we're going to do a classic holiday dish, oyster dressing. I'd like to introduce our chef for today. This is Miss Dorothy Lee. She's our Family and Consumer Science agent here in Escambia County, and Dorothy is going to show you all how to do this great dish.
Thank you, Rick. Today, the oyster dressing has become quite a tradition during our holiday season. It actually was brought over from Britain. It's kind of a British recipe. It's one of the things that we have kind of made some adaptations to in the South. Oftentimes we use not just breadcrumbs, we use maybe a little bit of cornbread instead of the day-old breadcrumbs to kind of prepare our dish, and then also add a little bit of hot sauce often to kind of spice it up a little bit for the holiday season. So today our recipe is going to be very simple. It's a quick and easy, simple recipe, and so I want to share the recipe with you before we start our food preparation. I'm going to use about 3/4 cup of butter. You can use a little bit less butter and maybe a little bit more of olive oil if you'd like to make it a little healthier. Onion and celery adds a lot to our dish, so some chopped onions and celery to our dish. We're going to also add a pint of oysters. We're going to drain them and chop them. You might want to reserve some of the liquid from the oysters to add as you add your chicken broth instead of adding the extra chicken broth. That's kind of one of those personal choices. And a tablespoon of poultry seasoning will go into our recipe. Now, oftentimes this time of year we've been doing a lot of cooking and we may be out of poultry seasoning. So we're going to talk a little bit later on about how you can make your own poultry seasoning if you don't have that particular spice in your pantry. A little bit of salt and pepper and some parsley will be added to our dressing today. Some chicken broth or the liquid from the oysters will be also added. 2 eggs to our mixture. And today we're going to be using the breadcrumbs, day-old bread. Any type of bread can be used in this particular dressing, or you can substitute for the dressing, the bread, you can substitute some wonderful rolls. This time of year, oftentimes we have a lot of different types of rolls left over from meals and so forth, and they can also be added to it. And cornbread dressing, of course, is one of those wonderful types of dressing in the South. So it could also be a cornbread dressing, or even a mixture of the bread dressing, a mixture of the biscuits or the cornbread to make this wonderful oyster dressing. Okay. I've added about 3/4 of a cup of butter to our skillet, and on medium heat. I'm going to let the butter melt, and then going to add a cup of chopped onions. Gives it all that wonderful flavor, and 3/4 of a cup of chopped celery to our butter, and we're going to cook celery and onions until they are translucent. The onions and celery are ready for us to add our spices. So I'm adding a little bit of salt and some pepper, and also some poultry seasoning. If you don't have poultry seasoning in your pantry, 2 tablespoons of sage, 1 teaspoon of thyme will help make some poultry seasoning for you, so you don't have to be concerned about not having it. Or any other spicy type of herb works just as well. I think in any type of dish that you have butter and you have celery and onions, it kind of blends in with whatever ingredients you're using. Okay, I thoroughly have those added to our dish, and then our next step is we're going to add our oysters I have chopped the oysters, and I did save just a little bit of the liquid from the oysters and to add to our skillet. So I'm going to kind of cook those for about 3 to 5 minutes to make sure that they are cooked thoroughly. Our oyster mixture of butter, onions, and celery, and our spices and our oysters are ready for us now to add our breadcrumbs. The recipe calls for just regular day-old bread, and it does indicate that the bread is to be softened, so I added a little bit of the chicken broth to the bread cubes, and that will help soften it up a little bit. So I added that to our mixture, and we're going to mix it really well. Okay, and cook it for just maybe about 3 minutes. Let it kind of cook a good 3 minutes so that everything kind of gets down in our mixture. Adding our chicken broth to our mixture. And we're going to make sure that we mix it thoroughly. Okay, and the next step is we're going to add some eggs. I've gone ahead and beaten the 2 eggs. The eggs are necessary because we need a binder so that all of this will kind of bind together in the oven while we're cooking. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time and make sure that we don't scramble the eggs, which can happen if you add them too quickly at too high a temperature. So I'm going to mix those in with our mixture. It smells so good. I wish you could smell it. The aroma is awesome. Okay. Okay, that's our 2 eggs that we've added to our mixture, and we're going to let that cook for about 3 minutes too, so that our eggs are thoroughly cooked. I'm going to spray our shallow baking dish with a little bit of cooking oil. Okay, and now we're ready to transfer our dressing mixture to our dish. I have preheated the oven to 350, and we're going to bake our dressing on 350 for about 30 minutes covered, and then we're going to uncover it and bake it for about another 15 minutes so that it will brown on top. So we're going to spread it out kind of evenly. Okay. And we're going to cover our dish with foil. Okay. And bake it for 30 minutes covered.
Well, we're talking about oysters. This is a popular seafood product all over the world, and it's an interesting seafood product at the same time. You don't meet a lot of people who say, yeah, oysters, they're okay. Either they love them or they hate them. And those who love them dearly and can't get enough of them. I know a gentleman who could eat a 10-pound bag by himself. And those who hate them dearly. And when you ask the people who hate them, it's interesting. A lot of them say, I've never tried it. And then you'll say, well, why haven't you tried it? They look at it, you know, why would you eat this? Which brings up an interesting question. We have here in Northwest Florida a lot of Native American middens up here, Indian Native American middens, and there's a lot of oyster shell. Obviously, this was a big part of their diet. But you have to go back and think that who was the first person to look at this thing and decide, yeah, I'll eat that. It's one of those things where you and your friend there, like, all right, let's count to 3 and do it together. 1, 2, 3, yeah, kind of thing, and just slurp this sucker out of a half shell. But those who do and love it, they absolutely love it. They like the texture. It's a sort of a firm meat. It's got a salty, briny taste to it, and a lot of folks who are oyster fans really like the saltier, the better. They like that. And when you think about, the Native Americans, and even here, the British fortifications in Pensacola, they have found large oyster shell middens. So it was popular with the colonists. But it kind of makes sense because, even in the natural world, when predators go out looking for a prey, you want to find the easiest thing to catch. And what's easier to catch than an oyster? I mean, these things don't move. They're sessile. They submit to each other. So it's just a matter of getting the thing off, and then you got the next problem, of course, is opening it. And many of you who are watching this have probably or may have experienced this, of seeing birds pick these things up and then flying over parking lots and bridges, dropping them, trying to crack them open, which tells you, they're willing to go that far, that this is a very popular food with them as well. Well, with the humans, of course, it's easy enough to get them, and back then, of course, they would just chip them off rocks and off oyster reefs. These guys cement to each other, forming what we would call an oyster clump, and oyster clumps eventually form oyster reefs, and some of these things are quite large and extensive. But then you get into the commercial harvest of these things, and of course, here along the Gulf Coast, and even more so in the Chesapeake Bay area, which is a great place for them, you have the tongers. These large, anywhere from 9 to 11 foot salad tongs that have these very sharp steel blades on them. And a tonger would stand on the boat and literally salad tong these things off. I used to watch it over in Mobile Bay a lot. And what was interesting over there, a lot of times it was a family thing. The husband would be doing the tonging, the wife was the one who would put them in the burlap sacks. And they would go out first thing in the morning, right after sunrise. You would see Mobile Bay, there would be tongers all over it. And about the hot part of the day, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, they would disappear. It got really hot. And then around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they would come back out and start tonging again. And right there along the causeway going on to Dolphin Island, there were just tonging boats everywhere. Unfortunately today, you can't find those. The reefs have been over-harvested. That's an issue. And of course, water quality. One problem with these bivalves is that they filter water. And so this is one of the reasons a lot of folks are nervous about eating these things. They always say, don't eat them within the month of R and rainy months and things like that. You can get them basically year round. The peak time is when it starts cooling down, like right now through late spring is the peak season for oysters. But keep this in mind, that when you go to a seafood market to purchase oysters, no matter really what time of year, to sell it at a seafood market, it has gone through a HACCP process. The harvester, the processor, the one who's delivering, anybody handling this product has had to go through a safety protocol to do so. So they would not be at the seafood markets if they weren't passing these protocols. So they should be very safe to eat no matter what time of year. And then again, it's kind of like shrimp. You look at this oyster like, really, do I want to eat these things? A lot of folks love them raw. That's how they slurp it right out of the shell. And that's the thing about oysters too, compared to some other bivalves. When you eat clams, it's usually the muscular foot. When you're eating a scallop, it's the abductor muscle that opens and closes the shell. With an oyster, you're eating it all. I mean, the whole thing. You don't even need to question. If you can think of something that might be inside that body, you're eating this. And so this actually makes people a little bit nervous. So they prefer to cook it. So there's a million ways to do it. It's like Forrest Gump and shrimp. I mean, you can have it grilled. This is a popular thing on Mobile Bay. You put the half shell right on the grill and char it. It's really good that way. Rockefeller, you can put it in gumbo. You can fry them. This is very popular. Just fried oyster po' boys are very popular. Or of course you can do what we're doing today, and that's the classic holiday dish, oyster dressing. Let's enjoy some.
Our dressing is ready to remove from the oven. It's cooked for about 30 minutes. And now we're going to remove the foil. Make sure we remove it with the steam away from us, away from your hands. Okay? And I'm going to return it to the oven, uncovered, and let it bake for another 15 to 30 minutes, or until brown, and until the internal temperature reaches 165 degrees for the dressing. So that's our oyster dressing. Leftover dressing lasts around in the refrigerator around 4 days. If you would like to freeze your dressing, it will last 4 months in your freezer at 0 temperature.